He wasn't supposed to be a monster. He was supposed to be America's favorite villain only on television. But the truth is far darker. Long before Larry Hagman became the man the world loved to hate as J.R. Ewing, he was living inside a nightmare of his own making. One filled with champagne breakfasts, LSD-laced coffee, secret affairs, childhood wounds, and a Hollywood household so chaotic it destroyed the people inside it. And when his daughter finally spoke in 2016, the mask ripped clean off. What she revealed didn't just rewrite his legacy. It exposed one of the darkest hidden chapters in TV history. Larry Hagman entered the world on September 21, 1931, in Fort Worth, Texas, a city built on oil, ambition, and quiet desperation. He was born into a storm he never created, yet one that shaped every chaotic decision that followed. His mother, Mary Martin, was barely more than a girl, 17, hungry for fame, desperate to escape the limits of a Texas life. His father, Ben Hagman, wore the polished badge of a district attorney but hid a destructive loyalty to alcohol and affairs. Their marriage wasn't a partnership. It was a slow-motion collision. When Larry was 5, the crash finally happened. The divorce tore their fragile home apart, and he was handed off like a responsibility nobody wanted to keep. Mary left in pursuit of Broadway glory, and Ben disappeared into late-night offices and liquor bottles. Larry was sent to live with his grandmother, a woman who loved him deeply but couldn't replace the two figures whose absence left cold fractures in his heart. Silence became his childhood soundtrack. Not the comforting kind. This was the silence of the forgotten. The silence that teaches a child to search for escape by any means possible. At 7, he was shipped off to military school, the kind of place where discipline is a weapon and affection is considered weakness. He learned how to march, how to salute, how to mask fear with defiance. But what no drill instructor could beat out of him was the feeling that he had been abandoned. When he moved later to a strict Vermont boarding school, the loneliness sharpened further. One night, in a burst of reckless impulse, he accidentally set a dorm room on fire. It didn't burn down much, but the flames said what he never dared to. Something inside him was already trying to explode. He found comfort in bars he was too young to enter, in whiskey he was too young to drink, and in the warm, buzzing numbness that dulled the ache of being left behind. But amid the rebellion, something else ignited, an obsession with performance. He discovered that when he stepped onto a stage, the world finally paid attention. That attention felt like love, even when it wasn't. Mary remarried in 1940, this time to Richard Halliday, a man whose coldness made the walls of their home feel like prison bars. Halliday never wanted Larry. He wanted Mary and only Mary. When she offered Larry a spot in her touring production years later, he knew it wasn't affection. It was a gesture dragged out of guilt. He refused. He returned instead to his father, who showed him how to hunt, how to fix things, and how to drink like a man twice his age. Their bonding was built on beer cans and unspoken wounds. By 18, Larry tried college. One semester was all it took to realize the classroom couldn't compete with the stage lights calling his name. He drifted between backstage jobs, small theaters, and moments of brilliance clouded by hangovers. Alcohol had already woven itself into the fabric of his identity. Then, at 21, he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and was stationed at England's RAF Buttonwood. It should have stabilized him. Instead, it offered something more intoxicating: audiences. Soldiers adored him as he performed sketches, parodies, and plays in London and Paris. Officers who should have reprimanded him instead applauded. Charm became his shield. Talent became his escape hatch. And alcohol became his partner. He smuggled bottles in his uniform and drank through loneliness, fear, and boredom. The military couldn't tame him, but he learned something essential. The stage was the only place where the world stopped hurting. After his service, London theaters embraced him. Critics noticed him. Doors opened. But behind the praise lurked demons he carried like luggage he couldn't set down. When he returned to the U.S., the bottle returned with him. By the late 1950s, he caught the attention of television producers. His early roles in The Twilight Zone and Search for Tomorrow hinted at stardom. But behind the scenes, his drinking threatened everything. Directors whispered. Co-stars covered for him. The charm that saved him in the military couldn't save him forever. When he landed the role of Major Tony Nelson in I Dream of Jeannie, it should have been his breakout moment. Instead, it became the battleground where his addiction grew teeth. Mornings began with hangovers, scenes were rewritten around his slurred lines, and at one point, producers were ready to fire him. The only thing that saved him was the unwavering support of Barbara Eden. She fought for him, protected him, and preserved his career more than he ever admitted. But even she couldn't stop the downward spiral. In 1968, when he spiked the studio coffee with LSD as a prank, the set turned into a nightmare. Crew members hallucinated. Production halted. People panicked. It wasn't funny, it was dangerous. But Larry shrugged it off. Recklessness had become his identity. He believed he was untouchable. After Jeannie ended, Hollywood grew hesitant. His drinking was no longer a secret. Directors didn't trust him. His career wavered until 1977. That year, he walked into an audition room for a show called Dallas, and everything changed. He didn't read the script like the others. He attacked it. Eyes sharp, smile cold, presence overwhelming. The producers didn't see an actor. They saw a shark. Dangerous, magnetic, unpredictable, perfect. He became J.R. Ewing, the man America loved to hate. But the lines between character and actor blurred quickly. Larry didn't just play J.R., he lived like him. On set, he drank entire bottles of champagne before lunch. In between takes, he downed bourbon like water. Cast parties spiraled into nights of excess. Dallas became a global phenomenon even as its star quietly self-destructed. When the episode Who Shot J.R. aired in 1980, the world stopped. 83 million Americans tuned in. Another 267 million watched overseas. Larry held television hostage. And he knew it. So he made a demand. Pay me $100,000 per episode. Give me royalties. Or find another J.R. CBS panicked. They were prepared to replace him. But 10 days later, their fear won. Larry walked away with a $40 million deal and one of the most lucrative contracts in TV history. Money poured in. Fame exploded. So did the drinking. 5 bottles of champagne a day. Bourbon on cereal. Hallucinations on set. Collapse after collapse. The cast covered for him. Producers hid the truth. And Larry kept going, powered by ego, alcohol, and the world's applause. By 1995, his liver surrendered. Doctors gave him 6 months to live. A 15-hour transplant saved him. But even then, he lit a cigarette days later, ignoring every warning. It was self-destruction disguised as rebellion. When he returned as J.R. For the 2012 revival, he was frail, battling cancer, but still wielding the character like a weapon. He filmed scenes while dying off-screen. His final episode aired after he passed. It was a goodbye he never got to speak. But the darkest chapter of his life wouldn't come from Hollywood. Came from his daughter, Christina. In 2016, she published The Eternal Party, a memoir that detonated the facade he built for decades. She revealed a childhood spent in chaos. Affairs, drugs, open sexuality, and a home where adult indulgence drowned out parental responsibility. She described being assaulted at 8. During one of the infamous parties that turned their house into a playground for Hollywood's reckless elite. Her father wasn't the attacker, but his absence created the world where it happened. She described being exposed to LSD as a child, of witnessing mental spirals no child should see, and of living in a home where fun was the religion and consequences didn't exist. She spoke about his apologies near the end. 2 words repeated over and over. Forgive me. Words that haunted her long after his death, because he never explained what he wanted forgiveness for. It wasn't his acting that made Larry Hagman unforgettable. It was the contradiction. The man who made millions laugh while he drowned his own pain. The man who became television's greatest villain but couldn't confront his own demons. The man who shaped an era of entertainment while leaving fractures at home no award could repair. In the end, his daughter's story did what Hollywood never dared. Told the truth. The real Larry Hagman wasn't J.R. Ewing. He was someone far more tragic. A boy abandoned, a man lost, and a father asking for forgiveness he never had.